Creating your own reality. Is it possible for me? I am Jennifer K. Hill, the Consciousness Architect, and I am here to tell you that it's not only possible, it's closer than you might think. Welcome to the show. Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Regarding Consciousness. It is always a pleasure to be here with you, and today it's a particular pleasure as I get to share with you the wisdom of a dear friend I've had the honor of knowing for several years now, and watching him have not one, but two best-selling books and a TED Talk that I think we just checked is at over 1.2 million views. This man is a change maker, an incredible human being. And in fact, I remember when we first met a few years ago, he told me the story of going from a rock star to a spiritual teacher. Today we have with us Moshe Gersht. Moshe is the best-selling author of the book It's All the Same to Me. And he's a Wall Street Journal and USA Today best-selling author, speaker, spiritual teacher who has devoted his life to seamlessly bridging the worlds of Torah traditions, mystical wisdom, and the true nature of the human mind, as well as our collective struggles. Moshe just wrote his most recent book, The Three Conditions, which we will be talking about a little bit today, and mainly focusing on how our state of consciousness directly impacts how the world shows up for us. Moshe, it's such a pleasure to be with you again, my friend.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Yeah, you've had this prolific journey. You were a rock star in your teens in Los Angeles, and then one day you gave it all up. In case somebody hasn't heard your story before, can you dive a little bit into that just to share with people a little about this twisted, miraculous, incredible, meandering journey that brought you to being the spiritual teacher you are today?
Sure. Like you said, I spent 7 years as the singer-songwriter of a rock band. It was a pop punk group in Southern California. Yeah, no, it's hard to imagine. But there's picture and there's videos out there somewhere. I know they can be found. I actually left that world in 2007. So it was really right before the social media explosion. So it can be found on the internet. I don't know how much is on social. But we were signed to a record label and we had put out a couple albums. We were touring the country, opening up for a lot of really incredible acts, like my favorite bands growing up. And life was really good. I think if you had asked me at the time before I had my spiritual awakening and decided to walk away, I would have said, life couldn't be better than this.
Right.
And somewhere along the way, I think it was at a record release party, someone had come over to me and with beer in hand said, "Hey, how long are you going to do this for?" And I had no idea what he was talking about. And I said, "Do what?" And he said, "Play music." And I was 20 and we were about to go on tour. At the time, they were really popular, the band Good Charlotte. And so we were like setting up a tour with them through our agency. And so I was like, "What do you mean? This is what we're doing?" I don't know. And then I thought, I guess I'll probably play until I'm successful and then I'll settle down. I always considered myself to be a family man. I wanted to have a family and I didn't think that I'd be on the road for the rest of my life. And he said, "When's that?" And I said, "When's what?" And he said, "When's success?" And at the time, I told him to grab another drink because he was ruining my buzz.
Great.
But the next morning, I woke up and that question burned in me like a fever. Like, when is that? When is success? And that started week after week of contemplating what that might look like. And I painted a picture and I did some research of how many number one singles do you have to have and how many tours do you go on and how much time are you on the road. And I tried to create a picture based on all of the people that I was looking up to. And along the way, when I was creating that picture, I realized a lot of these people weren't living the type of lives internally that I'd want to be living. There was like a dissonance between what success was and what their lives looked like. And I was hit with a startling realization that you can be successful at what you do and still fail at life. Like that was possible.
Mm.
I didn't want to miss the opportunity of a lifetime, which is our lifetime. And so it meant putting a big pause on my life dreams at the time and searching for truth. What is life about, and how do you live with real success? And what is there a metric by which you can figure out what success looks like? And why do we do what we do? I was raised that you just follow your heart and listen to your calling, and I was called by music, so I went there. But there's another part to our experience was there's our heart and there's our mind, and there's so much that had to come together that hadn't come together yet for me. So I went on this journey. I found myself in Jerusalem, and I basically spent the next 12 years in study, in prayer, in meditation, in eventually finding my wife and starting my own family. And at some point, I wanted to share back with the community and with the world the teachings and the experience that I picked up along the way.
I think it's a beautiful story, Moshe. For so many of us, we have this story that once you're on a certain trajectory, in your case, the trajectory of being a rock star or then pivoting to spiritual studies, that you can't make a pivot, that it's impossible, that there are these roadblocks and mental and emotional blocks that tell us you can't, society that tells us you can't. And what I love so much about your story, Moshe, is that we have this opportunity at any moment. If that question pesters us, persists, keeps us up at night, what is my purpose? It's never too late, whether you're 20 years old or 100 years old, you still have this opportunity to dive deep and find out, what is my purpose? What is the meaning of this life that I've been given for however long I've been given it? And I'd love to hear from you, Moshe, a little bit about this new book, The Three Conditions, and how that inspired you, and what are the three conditions?
So the three conditions are, the subtitle will help us over there, which is how intention, joy, and certainty will supercharge your life. And the essence of the book, maybe we can start with the word supercharge. What does it mean to live a supercharged life? And to me, that evokes the idea of being plugged in to a broader matrix of reality, plugged into a higher vibrational frequency where you are living the same in the same body in the same world, but it's with this different energy or a more expanded energy. So when you're living a supercharged life, everything that is still where it was when you started, but because you're different, the unfolding of everything as you continue to move forward then begins to shift. I think about it, and in the book I've called it the branches to the tree of life. The tree of life in the world of Torah, which is my base and everything that I've learned and come to. The tree of life is this image of what could have been in the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden had we not eaten from the tree of good and evil, which is going into the world of pure subjectivity, but moved into this higher consciousness of the tree of life, where you're plugging into a capital T truth, a capital G good, which is a more objective inner experience. And that tree has branches when we live in that higher space. And those branches, BRANCH, stand for the shift in our behaviors, our relationships, that which we attract into our life, the negation of ego, what we're channeling and creatively bringing into this world, and the level of healing that we have in ourselves and that we bring to the world around us. So that's the byproduct of when you're connected to the tree of life, when you're connected into this higher consciousness. So that tree is going to have branches, it's going to impact everything. So all the behaviors that you're trying to work on, they will naturally start to lean in the direction of what you're looking for, the relationships that you want to see improve. You want more peace in your relationships. You want more joy in your relationships. You're going to see those have an elevation. The things in your life or the events that you want to take place, the type of synchronicities or intuitive experiences you want to show up for you will start being attracted to you because you're living in that space, and so on, right? As we move through in all the different areas, there's this elevation. So that's the sense behind living a supercharged life is an enlightened life. We're looking to live that enlightened life that has this powerful energy. So how do we get that? So that's what the three conditions are for. So we start with where we're going, and now we understand, okay, so there are these three conditions by which you can align with, tune into, um, turn within your mind and walk in the direction of, that allow you to unlock that space to be in a place of flow. And simply, so the words that we use to point in the direction of are intention, certainty, and joy.
Hmm.
You could stop me at any point because
Oh, this is
I,
great.
I can I'll probably end up rambling here. But in intention, so let's go just like a micro on each one of those three. So what is intention? When I use the word intention, so I think most of the time when we think about intention, we are thinking about setting a goal or having an intention to do something, setting up a purpose or a direction that you want to go in. When I use the word intention over here, capital I intention is what is our essential intention for being, which allows us to plug back into and remember, who am I? What is the I am behind all my goals and my dreams and my desires on the surface? And so intention is really about reconnecting with the essential goodness and godliness and cosmic nature of self. So it's turning inward from a general outward orientation, right? Most of us have an outward orientation to reality. So intention is about turning inward and reconnecting with the notion that you're already good. You are already the light that you're looking for in the world. You are already the joy you seek to find. You are already worthy and alive with love. Not because you have any of those concepts in you, but because the nature, the very nature of your essence is all of those things, is whole and complete as is. And when you can strip away all the dead-end layers and masks that we have covered our entire lives with, all the paradigms that we've put upon ourselves, to then convince ourselves that we need something out there to make the thing inside be good or be valuable or worthy or powerful. When you strip all that away, so your natural state is one of love and goodness. So intention is about realigning with that state, coming into that. And then there are different practices in the book through meditation and through mental reorganization, reprogramming, to be able to remember, because this is really about a remembering. This is not about learning something new. Truth is not learned, it's recognized. So it's about recognizing the divine nature of self. So that's, yeah.
I want to go back and rewind for a moment on this mental reorganization. That kind of like my little antenna went up. Tell us a little bit more about what is mental reorganization and how do we do it?
We are given from our parents, from our societies, and then from our kind of basic genetics, a certain perspective on reality, right? We come into this world. I know that there's an idea that we come into the world tabula rasa, that we're a clean slate. That is not my experience. I don't know if it's as clean as we think it is. And for anyone who has children, all you need is more than one to realize that we don't come in here the same. And it's not just a blank. We come in with mission, with soul intention, with we come in with very differing degrees of what makes us tick. And so we have that plus everything we've picked up from our parents, the assumptions and beliefs and opinions and paradigms, all of that comes in from our parents and then from the societies around us. And at some point that starts to crystallize and harden as this is just how I see life. It is my agreement with reality, right? I've agreed to certain, I have a contract with the world around me, and these are the things that I believe to be true. So in the three conditions, we talk about the map, right? Like a micro map of consciousness, which is recognizing that if you want to be able to change the thing on the inside, we do have to start with what's happening on the outside. Anybody who's looking to live life on any higher form of plane, you want to be happier or more successful in any way, the reason why you're looking is because you probably perceive a problem somewhere. Something's not working right. And you can look at the behavior on the outside or the situation on the outside, and you ask yourself, okay, how was I feeling? What was my energy like before the physical experience took place? So you go inward. And then once you spend time and you can identify and recognize the feeling that was behind it. Maybe you went and you acted a certain way because you were frustrated or angry, or maybe you didn't go out that day because you were sad or in grief, right? You lacked forgiveness to yourself or to someone else. Then you can follow that deeper inward to your mind and say, what are the thoughts that were behind that? Because all the energy is really just a reflection of your thought and belief about reality. And all the thoughts you have, once you can find the space of, oh, I was thinking these thoughts, which is why I was feeling those feelings, which is why I had that life experience. Behind that, there's a set of beliefs. So once you can start to really contemplate and figure out what am I really believing about myself or about the world? And those are the only two things that exist really from our perspective of duality, right? Though primarily I see the world and understand the world through a non-dual conceptualization, but in context, we all live in a world of duality. So I see a me and then everything that's not me. That's it. That's like when you just make life very simple. There's you, and then there's everything that's not you. So the world and self. And your belief about yourself and the world at the most primary foundational space is what gives rise to every thought and then every emotion and then all the behaviors and actions in your life. So we really want to go all the way in and try to figure out, okay, what are those core beliefs that I've been carrying? And to do that, we have to get really quiet. We have to spend time and actually identify and see, oh, I'm walking around the world with a belief that, and then you fill in the blank, a belief that I will only be good enough when I get to a certain level in my career, or when I'm in this special relationship, or when I have children, or and then you start to realize that this is a belief you've been carrying for a long time. And that's going to be true with every area of your life. So to reprogram, you can't reprogram until you figure out what the program is first, like what's there. And then we want to go to the silent space beyond that. And so whether that's through prayer or meditation or spending time in nature, some space, even just truth is, right when you get up in the morning, that first hour of the day is also a really prime time when your mind is more readily able to digest and bring in its fertile ground is what I'm looking for. There's probably a better word for that, but it's the fertile ground for planting the seeds for that reprogramming, for the reorganizing of our thoughts about self and reality, to actually go into that space of quiet and remember, okay, what might be true if I didn't have this belief, right? And you start bringing in the new ideas, right? The new perspective of looking in the world. And that new way of looking at reality includes all the major spiritual principles that every major spiritual path throughout all of history has had and has already expressed. So it's remembering the fact that I'm okay regardless of what's happening in the world. And it's allowing yourself to sit and contemplate, what does that mean? I'm okay regardless of what happens in my life. What does it mean that I'm good? What's my thought about good? And allowing yourself to contemplate these deep ideas. There's a book called The Way of the Tree of Life. That's how you would translate it. It's a Hebrew book called Derech Etz Chaim. It was written about 300 years ago by one of the great Kabbalists of the 18th century. And he writes over that this practice of spending time every day while you're quiet in stillness and just asking yourself, who am I? And what am I doing here? Who am I? And what am I doing here?
Mm.
Where is love? Where does that fit with me? Right? You just ask these very fundamental questions and you just spend some time there, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, the more the merrier, but whatever time you have to get yourself back into that space. And then you go on with your day. But you do that enough times, enough days, enough hours where you're continuing to go back to that place at some point, right? And whether that's you're doing it to your mind, or you're listening to some audiobook, or you're reading a book, wherever it is, you're realigning your mind. At some point you wake up and you see the world differently. You don't know when the transformation happened. I don't know what day was it. Did it happen last Tuesday? Did it happen 2 months ago? But at some point, you're walking around and you're in the market and you're trying to purchase something, and someone cuts you in line, and you look at them with forgiveness and compassion instead.
Mm. Yeah, it's so funny you bring that up, Moshe. I was having lunch with a friend of mine literally the day, but like less than 24, 48 hours before my father died. We thought he was going to be okay. He had passed away recently. And I was sharing with my friend over lunch how when I was in my 20s, my dad and I had made peace. He had been an alcoholic my whole life. And one day I went out in the garage and I said to my father, the family had a story. We often have these stories we tell ourselves, right, about how the world is, what people are like. And unfortunately, it's very much like putting on a pair of glasses, and those lenses that we see the world through, those lenses we see our loved ones, our colleagues, our children through, are not always lenses that are looking for love, that are looking for consideration, compassion. Unfortunately, we sometimes fall into the trap of judgment. And that's where I was at that point in my life until I had this aha awakening. And I remember standing in the garage with my father before he had started drinking. He never drank on the job, it was just on the days that he had off. And I remember saying, Dad, I am so sorry for treating you like you've been an a-hole my whole life. I'm so sorry. That's the story I had about you. And I would love to know who you are as a human being. And Moshe,
Wow.
It was transformational. My father told me things. He was a captain at the fire department, of how he pulled children out of burning buildings, decapitated people out of cars, things that most of us could never in our wildest nightmares fantasize or imagine or have nightmares about. And that brought my father and I closer together. And it was all first and foremost by me dropping my story that my father was this jerk. Then that then allowed my sister, my mom, the whole family to shift their perspective. And it ties in exactly to what you're saying is we have these accidental adversarial relationships and these inadvertent lenses we use to see the world and one another through. And what I'm hearing you say out of this, Moshe, is what if we could get curious? What if peeling back the layers of the onion? I think it was Viktor Frankl who said something to the effect of man is a man of a million skins, like the peels of an onion, right? And what if we could peel back all those layers and get to the essence of each and every one of us, which at our core is love? What would it take to see each other? And nothing changed my dad, despite when he passed away and I was out to lunch with my friend and sharing the story with her. And she said, Jennifer, please share this. She said, how did you get to a place of unconditional love? Because my dad never stopped drinking. That wasn't a thing. And yet he was one of my heroes and I loved him. And we went and built two schools together in Africa. In fact, one of the things I was one in Africa, one in Nepal. And I remember in Africa, he couldn't sleep because he was used to alcohol. So I remember trying
Wow.
to like bribe him with a sedative. Dad, you can do this. Just make it a couple more days. And he was able to do all of that. So my friend Jeannie, when we were out to lunch the day before he passed, said, Jennifer, please share that. I think it's a beautiful thing of how can we see each other's hearts rather than see ego to ego. Let's see each other heart to heart.
First of all, thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you to your friend for encouraging you to. That's beautiful. That is so beautiful. And obviously, the level of forgiveness and empathy and connection that comes through from you to him, and then to have that is what a gift to have that at any point in one's life with their parent, and especially when you've had somewhat of a maybe a estrangement somewhere emotionally, energetically in there. So I'm quite happy for you, and I'm sorry to hear about your loss.
Right, it's
It's
so O'Shea, it was peaceful, it was beautiful, and it was heart to heart. Anytime I saw my dad and he was drinking, there was no more judgment there. It wasn't that my dad was bad or wrong. In fact, my dad often cried, Moshe, because I just surrounded him in unconditional love. I just had the deepest compassion for where he came from, that I'll never know the pain he went through. And that's the beautiful thing about this journey. How can we have more joy and certainty that everybody is doing the best they can? How can we get curious rather than assuming, which is why I love everything you're doing, Moshe, with the book that you just wrote, with the first book. It's all the same to me. I'd love to know, Moshe, are there any closing thoughts or anything I didn't get to ask you that you'd love to leave everybody with today in closing?
maybe I'll piggyback off of what you had just shared with us. That space of non-judgment, really, like when you boil all of this down, and I think about this all the time. If you only have one thing to share with someone, or you only have a moment, what's that one thing you're going to share? And because really, we all want the same thing. We all want to live a more enlightened life, a life that's filled with love and joy, a life that's filled with peace and purpose, a life where we can actually feel that deep sense of success, but not because of something out there, but because of what's already in here. And so, how do we do that? And the answer is so counter to, I think, what we've been sold in our lives, which is that when you can go to that place of non-judgment, a real place where you don't resist life, we the fact that we were born is, I think, there's something like 1 in 4 trillion before a couple comes together to have full term baby is something like 1 in 4 trillion. So like you won the cosmic lottery to begin with, like you already won. I do a thing in some of my talks where I'll ask people in the beginning, does anybody here ever feel like when there's ever a raffle, they're the one that never wins, right? A lot of people feel that way. A lot of people feel like I'm the one that never wins, and they tell me that, and then I say, all of you get a free book, right? Like, we have to break that perspective. Like now you're all winners. Don't think that way, because really we won to begin with. Like you made it. And then once you made it to a rock that's floating through space, that has gravity and an atmosphere, and it's the best rock in our galaxy that we can see as far as the eye can see. This is the best one. So you won the cosmic lottery. You are on a rock floating through space, and guess what? You've got these amazing senses, and you can see, and you can hear, and you can taste, and you can touch, and you can feel, and you can have relationships, and there's love, and there's joy, and there's a roller coaster. There's an amazing life. And the reminder is that's just the frame. That's the context for your life. So no matter what things look like on the surface, or no matter how much you feel like things need to be a certain way, just remember everything is working. The fact is, 99.9% of everything has to go right for us to be frustrated about one thing going wrong, right? Everything is working. The baseline of reality is it's all good. So the only thing that's making you not feel good is your thought that things should be different, that judgment that either I should be different or the world should be different. But as soon as we can let go of that, that the person you're with has to be any different than how they are, or that you should be any different than how you are, or that the situation should be any different than how it is, you will fall back into the light. There is a gravitational pull. The only thing that keeps us from the light is we keep jumping in the other direction. Just
Mm,
stop jumping. That stillness will draw you in.
I'm speechless. Moshe, that doesn't happen often. There's words cannot express how deeply that touches my soul, and I'm sure the souls of so many of us. Everything is perfect in this moment. We may think we are dating the wrong person, married to the wrong person, have the wrong children, the wrong job. And what if we could just allow everything to be right as it is in this moment and trust that we are whole, complete, and perfect, and so is everybody else? So beautiful, Moshe. And I want people to be able to connect with you, find your books, find your TED Talk. Where should people connect with you if they want to learn more about your deep wisdom you've been sharing?
To you, Jennifer, the books are available on Amazon. If you put my name, Moshe Gersht, in there, you'll find both the three conditions, and it's all the same to me. And I spend a lot of time trying to share these ideas on social media. So Instagram is probably where there's a lot of activity, but any of the social media platforms, all the handles are the same, Moshe Gersht. And we give away like some free downloads on the website. So moshegersht.com, you can go there and get either a free copy or a free chapter or some tools. There are a lot of nice, neat things that you can get right there on the site.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Moshe. It's always a pleasure to be with you, my friend. Thank you to each of you for watching, listening, sharing the episode, liking it. We are so grateful that you've chosen to spend this time with us for however long you listened and tuned in. And as always, our intention is perhaps there was a whisper in your ear, something your soul was longing to share with you, a message, an insight. Whatever it was that you took away from today's episode, may you carry it out with you into your life and use that to help illuminate and light up the lives of others as well as yourself. I am Jennifer Cahill, and I thank you for your time.